The words hit him harder than any blow he had ever taken in his life. He wasn't supposed to hear them. The janitor's cart squeaked softly as he paused outside the ICU room, his gloved hands frozen mid-motion. Through the slightly open door, the doctor's voice carried in a cold, clinical tone that didn't match the gravity of what was being said. The patient inside was unconscious, machines blinking steadily beside the bed, fighting to keep a fragile life tethered to this world. And then came the sentence that changed everything. Let him die. For a moment, the hallway seemed to tilt beneath the janitor's feet. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, and the smell of antiseptic burned his nose, but all he could focus on was the unbearable weight of those 3 words. Something inside him cracked open, something old, buried, and painful, and he knew, with terrifying certainty, that he couldn't just walk away. Backhand index pointing right. If you believe that kindness and second chances can change lives, take a moment to like this video, comment where you're watching from, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this remind us how powerful compassion can be. His name was Imran, and to most people in the hospital, he was invisible. He was the man who emptied trash bins before sunrise, who mopped floors long after visiting hours ended, who quietly fixed spills and messes so others could focus on saving lives. No one asked about his past. No one wondered why he worked double shifts or why he sometimes stared too long at the ICU monitors with a distant expression in his eyes. They saw a uniform, not a person. But Imran carried a history heavier than any cleaning bucket he pushed through those corridors. Years ago, he had lost his own son in a hospital room not very different from this one. His boy had been just 8 years old, full of laughter and questions about the world. A sudden illness had taken hold, and despite doctors' efforts, hope slipped away day by day. What haunted Imran wasn't just the loss. It was the memory of standing helplessly outside a treatment room, overhearing a conversation that sounded eerily similar to the one he had just heard now. Words about limited chances, about resources, about priorities. Back then, he hadn't fought. He hadn't known how. He had trusted the system completely, believing doctors would do everything possible. When his son died, grief consumed him, but guilt followed close behind. A quiet, gnawing guilt that whispered he should have tried harder, asked more questions, demanded more time. Now, years later, fate had placed him in this hallway again. Through the door, he saw the patient clearly, a middle-aged man, pale and still, with tubes running from his arms and chest. The chart at the foot of the bed showed critical condition. The doctor's tone suggested there was little hope left, that continuing treatment might be pointless. Imran understood medical limitations existed. He wasn't naive. But something about the situation felt wrong. The patient looked alone. No family sat beside him. No personal belongings decorated the bedside table. It was as if he had already been forgotten. Imran's heart pounded. He told himself to move on. He was just a janitor. Interfering could cost him his job. People like him didn't question doctors. They followed instructions, stayed quiet, and remained unseen. But another voice rose louder inside him, the voice of a father who had once wished someone, anyone, would have stepped forward for his child. He parked his cart against the wall and stood there for nearly a full minute, trembling. Fear battled with conscience. Finally, conscience won. What he did next would shock the entire hospital. Instead of walking away, Imran went straight to the nurse's station and asked about the patient. His voice shook, but his eyes carried a determination that caught the nurse off guard. He explained he had overheard part of the conversation and wanted to know if the man truly had no family. The nurse hesitated at first. Confidentiality rules were strict, but something in Imran's expression made her soften. She revealed that the patient had been admitted after collapsing at work. No emergency contacts had answered. They were still trying to locate relatives. That was enough for Imran. Over the next hours, during his breaks and after his shift ended, he began making calls. He checked the patient's belongings, found a worn wallet with a few clues, an employee ID, a faded photograph of a woman and child, an old address. Piece by piece, Imran tracked down people connected to the man's life. He wasn't trained for this, but persistence replaced expertise. He called workplaces, neighbors, anyone who might know something. Meanwhile, the patient's condition worsened. Doctors prepared to scale back aggressive treatment, believing survival chances were nearly non-existent. Late that night, exhausted but refusing to quit, Imran finally reached someone, the woman in the photograph. She was the patient's sister. She hadn't known her brother was hospitalized. They had lost contact after a family dispute years earlier. When she heard what was happening, her voice broke into sobs. Within hours, she was on her way to the hospital. The next morning changed everything. The sister arrived with her teenage son, the patient's nephew. They rushed into the ICU, grief and hope tangled together in their expressions. Doctors explained the critical condition, but now there was family present, people willing to make decisions, people ready to fight for him. The nephew revealed something crucial. His uncle had a rare medical condition previously treated at another hospital, with specialists who understood his case better. That information triggered an immediate consultation with those specialists. Treatment plans shifted. Hope returned. Days passed, and against all expectations, the patient stabilized. His body responded to the adjusted treatment. Organs that had been failing began to recover slowly. Nurses started whispering about a miracle. But the biggest shock came when the patient finally woke up. Weak and confused at first, he gradually understood where he was. His sister explained everything, how a janitor had found her, how he refused to let the hospital give up, how he had been the reason she arrived in time. When Imran visited quietly during his shift, expecting nothing, the patient grabbed his hand with tears streaming down his face. In that moment, years of guilt inside Imran loosened their grip. He hadn't been able to save his son, but he had saved someone else's brother, someone else's uncle, someone else's future. News of what happened spread through the hospital quickly. Doctors who had once barely noticed him now looked at him differently. Nurses thanked him. Administrators praised his initiative. But what mattered most to Imran wasn't recognition. It was the simple knowledge that he had listened to his heart when it mattered. For the first time in years, he felt peace. The patient continued recovering over the following weeks. Rehabilitation was slow but steady. His family visited daily, filling the room with laughter and warmth that hadn't been there before. Every time Imran passed by, they greeted him like family. One afternoon, as sunlight streamed through the hospital windows, Imran paused outside the ICU again, the same hallway where he had once heard those devastating words. But this time, the air felt different. Lighter. Hopeful. He realized something profound. Sometimes heroes don't wear white coats or carry medical degrees. Sometimes they carry mops and buckets, invisible to the world, until compassion turns them into the reason someone lives. Red Heart special request. Before we reach the ending, comment the word hope if you believe one act of courage can change someone's destiny. Months later, the patient walked back into the hospital on his own feet, fully recovered. He wasn't there for treatment. He was there to find the janitor who refused to give up on him. When he finally saw Imran in the corridor, he hugged him tightly, both men overcome with emotion. In that embrace was gratitude, redemption, and the quiet proof that ordinary people can do extraordinary things when they choose compassion over fear. Life moved forward, as it always does. Imran continued his job, pushing his cart through hallways, cleaning rooms, staying mostly unnoticed. But inside him, something had healed. The guilt that once haunted him had transformed into purpose. He understood now that even small actions could ripple outward in ways no one could predict. And somewhere in the city, a man was alive, laughing with his family, making memories, breathing, because a janitor decided not to stay silent. If this story touched your heart, please like the video, share it with someone who needs encouragement today, comment your thoughts, and subscribe for more emotional stories that remind us humanity is still alive in this world. Because sometimes, the difference between life and death is simply one person who refuses to walk away.